Have you ever poured your heart into someone only to find out they were laughing behind your back? My girlfriend Sophia trashed my job, called my family trash, and bragged about cheating on me to impress her rich friends at a Miami Beach gala. Days later, her perfect little world came crashing down in a scandal that rocked the city. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami. And this is how I walked away from her betrayal to build something unstoppable. If you've ever been burned by someone you trusted, this story's for you. I grew up in foster homes, scraping by, sleeping in a beat-up pickup truck I worked my ass off to buy. Now I coach kids from Miami's toughest neighborhoods, kids like I was, lost, angry, fighting to make it to tomorrow. The pay's crap, but when one of my players, Marcus, got a college scholarship, or when another, now in the NFL, texts me, "Couldn't have done it without you, coach," it's worth every dime. That's my life. Grit, heart, and second chances. Then I met Sophia at a glitzy charity event, her dad's fashion empire flashing cash. She was 29, gorgeous, living a life where money was never a worry. Her job, handed to her by daddy. She called me her diamond in the rough, like I was some rare find in her curated world. At first, it felt real. She'd listen to my stories about the kids, curl up next to me, make me feel like I belonged. I fell hard, save for a ring, dreamed of a future together. But while I was building that dream, Sophia was playing a game. One where I was just a prop, a story to tell at her fancy parties. Little did I know, one night would rip the mask off her lies and set me on a path I never expected. So, that's how it started. A love I thought was real, a betrayal I never saw coming. I'm Ethan, just a regular guy from Miami, scraping by as a youth football coach, trying to give kids in rough neighborhoods a shot at something better. My life hasn't been a fairy tale. I grew up in foster homes, bouncing around after my parents bailed on me when I was just a kid. By 18, I was living out of a beat-up pickup truck, working odd jobs at a local garage to afford it. That truck was a piece of junk, but it was mine. Paid for with every ounce of sweat I had. It meant freedom, a roof over my head when I had nothing else. Fast forward to now, at 32, I'm coaching kids who remind me of myself back then, lost, angry, but full of potential. One of them, a kid named Marcus, just got a college scholarship because of the program I run. Moments like that, they're why I keep going, even when the paycheck barely covers rent. Then there's Sophia, my girlfriend of 2 years. Or, well, ex-girlfriend now. I met her at a fancy charity football event in Miami Beach, where her dad's fashion empire was flashing its cash. Sophia, 29, was everything I wasn't. Polished, confident, born with a silver spoon. She worked at her dad's company, a cushy job handed to her on a platter. She'd glide through life, never worrying about a bill, always dressed like she stepped out of a magazine. When we started dating, she'd say things like, "Ethan, you're so real, so different." It made me feel special, like I was more than my past. We'd spend nights talking about my kids at the community center, her laughing at their antics, curling up next to me like she belonged there. For the first time, I thought maybe I'd found someone who saw me, not just where I came from, but there was always this undercurrent, a whisper of doubt, and it came loudest from my best friend, Lily. She's 31, a firecracker who's been my rock for a decade. We met in community college, both clawing our way through on scholarships. Lily's the kind of person who'd make a grumpy teenager crack a smile with one of her savage one-liners. She saw right through Sophia from day one. "That girl's playing you, Ethan," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "She's all designer bags and fake laughs. "You're the real deal, not her." I'd brush it off, laugh, tell her she was overthinking it, but deep down, I knew Lily had a point. Sophia's world, private yachts, exclusive parties, wasn't mine. Still, I was head over heels. 6 months ago, I started saving for a ring. It wasn't much, not by her standards, but it was honest. 3-month salary, just like they say. I kept it hidden in my dresser, waiting for the perfect moment. Sophia started dropping hints about our future. Pictures of beachfront condos in South Beach, talk of kids, asking if I'd be a good dad. "You're amazing with those kids you coach," she'd say, her voice soft. "Ours would be lucky." That word, ours, hit me hard. I started picturing a little girl with her smile, a boy with my stubborn streak, learning to kick a football. I decided to propose at my buddy Ryan's engagement party, a big event at a swanky Miami Beach hotel. I thought it'd be poetic, 2 couples starting their futures together. Lily wasn't thrilled. "You sure about this, Ethan?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "There's no return policy on a ring." I just grinned, too caught up in the moment to listen. I had no idea that night would flip my entire world upside down, exposing a truth I wasn't ready to face. So, there I was. Ethan, a guy from the rough side of Miami, thinking I'd found my forever with Sophia. I had the ring in my pocket, ready to propose at my buddy Ryan's engagement party, convinced it was the start of something real. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and this one was about to hit me square in the chest. The event was at this glitzy hotel in Miami Beach, the kind of place where the valet looks at you like you don't belong if your car's older than last year's model. I showed up in my one decent suit, feeling like a fish out of water among all these high rollers in designer threads. Sophia, though, she was in her element, floating through the crowd, her laugh echoing like she owned the room. I stood by the bar, clutching a drink I couldn't afford, trying to blend in while she worked the crowd like a pro. Lily, my best friend, sidled up next to me, looking sharp in a simple black dress. "Man, you look like you're at a funeral, not a party," she quipped, nudging my shoulder. "Need me to rescue you from this bougie nightmare?" I laughed, shaking my head. "Nah, I'm good, just people watching." I patted my pocket, feeling the ring box. "Think tonight's the night, Lily?" Her eyes went wide. "You're serious? Proposing here? With all these trust fund types?" I nodded, grinning like an idiot. "Ryan's cool with it. Said I could grab the mic after his toast." Lily exhaled hard, her face skeptical. "Ethan, I'm telling you, Sophia's not who you think. Be careful, okay?" And I waved her off, too caught up in my own head to take her seriously. Big mistake. Just as I was about to find Sophia, my phone buzzed. It was one of my kids from the football program, Jamal, a 15-year-old who's had it rougher than most. His dad was drunk again, screaming, breaking stuff. Jamal was scared, hiding in his room, begging me to help. "Coach, I don't know what to do," he said, his voice shaking. My heart sank. I stepped outside to the hotel's quiet courtyard, away from the party noise, and spent the next 20 minutes calming him down. I promised to pick him up for practice tomorrow, give him a safe place to crash for a bit. That's the thing about my job. It's not just coaching. It's being there when these kids have no one else. By the time I hung up, I felt drained but focused. I headed back inside, ready to find Sophia and make my move. As I cut through a quieter lounge area to avoid the crowd, I heard her laugh, that sharp, fake one she used with her fancy friends. I slowed down, staying just out of sight. Then I heard her voice, loud and clear, talking to a group from her dad's fashion company. "So, when's Ethan popping the question?" some guy asked, chuckling. 2 years is a long time to date a guy like that. There was a pause, and my stomach tightened. I leaned against the wall, hidden, waiting. What came next felt like a punch to the gut, setting the stage for everything to unravel. I stood there, frozen in the shadows of that swanky Miami Beach hotel lounge, my heart pounding as Sophia's voice cut through the air. The ring box in my pocket felt like a lead weight. I'd just spent 20 minutes talking Jamal, one of my kids, through his dad's drunken rampage, promising him a safe escape at practice tomorrow. I was ready to propose, to build a future with Sophia, but her words stopped me cold. "Ethan, popping the question," she said, her voice dripping with mockery as her work friends laughed. "God, can you imagine? Me, married to a football coach for street kids?" My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. I pressed myself against the wall, out of sight, as she kept going. "He's sweet, don't get me wrong. Great stories for cocktail parties, foster homes, living in his truck, all that gritty stuff. People love the 'I'm dating a charity case' vibe. So progressive." The group cackled and my hand started shaking. "But seriously," a woman chimed in, "you guys seem solid. He's got that rugged charm." Sophia scoffed, her tone turning ice cold. "A phase, Claire. A fun detour. Like when you tried surfing for a month and hated it." More laughter. "He's great for now, but marriage, please. He drives a 12-year-old Jeep, shops at discount stores. What would we even talk about at my dad's galas? How he taught some kid to kick a ball." My chest tightened, each word slicing deeper. My dad would have a stroke if I brought Ethan home as fiancé material. Can you picture the prenup? "So, Mr. Carter, your assets include a collection of old sweatshirts." The room erupted in cruel chuckles. I felt like I was watching my life get torn apart for sport. Then came the kicker. "What's your end game, Sophia?" a guy asked. She sighed, her voice low and calculating. "I'm 29. Time to get serious. There's this new designer, Lucas Rivera, at the firm. Big name, big money, penthouse in Brickell. Dad's been pushing us to connect. Let's just say we've had some late-night meetings." My vision blurred, rage and pain mixing like a storm. The ring box burned in my pocket, a symbol of my stupidity. I wanted to storm in, call her out, but my feet wouldn't move. Instead, I turned and walked out of the hotel, past the glittering lights and fake smiles, into the humid Miami night. I didn't say goodbye to Ryan, didn't look for Lily. I just left. In my Jeep, I sat in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then, in a moment of pure fury, I pulled out the ring box, grabbed a lighter from the glove compartment, and set it on fire in an empty lot nearby. The flames ate through the velvet, the cheap metal inside, glowing briefly before turning to ash. 2 years of my life, my savings, my trust, gone in minutes. I blocked Sophia's number, deleted her from my socials, and drove home to my small apartment in Little Havana. As I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I swore I'd never let anyone make me feel small again. But the real storm was coming, and Sophia had no idea what she'd just unleashed. The Miami night air was thick and heavy as I drove away from that hotel, the ashes of the ring I'd burned still smoldering in my mind. Sophia's words echoed like a bad song stuck in my head, calling me a phase, mocking my job, my life, my everything. I'd poured 2 years into her, saved every spare dime for that ring, and she'd laughed it all off like I was some temporary thrill. I was done. Not just hurt, done. I pulled into my Little Havana apartment, the familiar creak of the stairs grounding me. My phone was already buzzing with texts from Sophia, probably wondering where I'd gone. I didn't read them. I blocked her on everything. Phone, Instagram, email, all of it. No explanations, no arguments, just silence. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of seeing me break. The next 3 days, I vanished. I turned off my socials, told the community center I needed personal time, and holed up in my apartment, the blinds drawn tight. The only person I let in was Lily, my best friend, who showed up the morning after the party with a bag of Cuban sandwiches and a 6-pack of beer. "You look like you got hit by a bus, Ethan," she said, kicking the door shut behind her. "What the hell happened?" I spilled it all. Sophia's cruel words, the way she bragged about cheating with Lucas, the ring I torched. Lily listened, her jaw tight, not interrupting, which for her is like spotting a comet. When I finished, she slammed her beer down. "That snake. I knew she was fake from day one. I'm calling her right now." I grabbed her phone. "No, Lily, I'm not doing this. No fights, no drama. I'm just gone." She stared at me, her eyes narrowing. "What, like Ghost Protocol gone?" I nodded. "Exactly. She doesn't get to see me hurt. She gets nothing." Lily leaned back, a slow grin spreading. "Damn, Ethan, that's cold. I respect it." She raised her beer in a mock toast to screwing over the designer princess. I didn't laugh, but her fire helped. I threw myself into work instead, focusing on my kids at the center. One of them, Jamal, the kid who'd called me during the party, needed extra time. His dad was spiraling, and I spent hours helping him find a safe place to stay with his aunt. That's what mattered, real impact, not Sophia's fake world. Meanwhile, Sophia was losing it. By day 2, my phone was blowing up with calls from unknown numbers. Her, I figured, using friends' phones after I blocked her. She sent emails to my work account. "Ethan, why'd you leave? Please talk to me." "This isn't you." I deleted them without replying. On day 3, she showed up at my apartment, banging on the door, calling my name. I watched through the peephole as she sat in the hallway, crying, her perfect makeup smudging. I turned up the TV and let her sit there until she left. 2 hours later, Lily, when I told her, cackled. "Ice cold, Ethan. You're a legend." But it wasn't about being cold. I just had nothing left to say. Sophia thought she could play me, but I was done being her prop. Little did I know, she was about to drop a bomb that'd test every ounce of my resolve. 3 days of silence, and I thought I'd close the door on Sophia for good. I was back in my routine, coaching my kids at the community center in Little Havana, helping Jamal settle in with his aunt, trying to rebuild the pieces of myself Sophia had shattered. But then, on the 4th day, I came home to find an envelope taped to my apartment door. Inside was an ultrasound picture, grainy black and white, with a note in Sophia's perfect handwriting. "Ethan, I'm 8 weeks pregnant. We need to talk. Please call me." My heart stopped. A baby? My baby? The world tilted, and for a moment, I was right back in that Miami Beach hotel. Hearing her call me a phase. I stood in the hallway, grocery bags cutting into my hands, staring at that image like it could explain itself. Then I did the math. 8 weeks ago was early June when Sophia was in New York for a big fashion show. I'd driven her to the airport myself, kissed her goodbye, thinking we were solid. Something wasn't adding up. I sat on my couch, the ultrasound on the coffee table, and called her. She answered on the first ring, her voice shaky. "Ethan, thank God. I've been so worried." I cut to the chase. "The ultrasound. Is it real?" "Of course it's real," she snapped, defensive. "I wouldn't lie about this." "We're having a baby, Ethan." My voice stayed calm, colder than I felt. "When did this happen? Because 8 weeks ago you were in New York for that fashion show." Silence. A long, heavy pause. An estimate, she stammered. The doctor said it could be 6 to 10 weeks. You know how these things are. I didn't, but I let it slide. Then I remembered something. A text I'd seen on her phone months ago, one she brushed off as work stuff. It was from Lucas, that designer she'd bragged about at the party. Something flirty about late nights in New York. My gut twisted. Sophia, I said, slow and deliberate. I found a text from Lucas about New York. Care to explain? More silence, then I rushed. That was nothing, Ethan. Just business. Please, can we meet? I need to see you. Part of me wanted to hang up, to keep her blocked out of my life, but the ultrasound was burning a hole in my brain. If there was even a chance this kid was mine, I had to know. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her the next day at a coffee shop in Coconut Grove, neutral ground where I could walk away if things went south. Ethan, this changes everything, she said before I hung up. We can be a family. Her voice sounded desperate, but there was something off, like she was reading from a script. I called Lily right after. She's saying she's pregnant, 8 weeks. Dropped off an ultrasound at my door. Lily snorted. Pregnant? With your kid? After what she said at that party. Ethan, she's playing you. Bet you a Cuban sandwich that baby's Lucas's. I didn't laugh. I'm meeting her tomorrow. Need to see this through. Lily sighed. Fine, but don't let her pull you back in. You're smarter than that. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sophia was about to drag me into a deeper mess, one that'd make her betrayal at the party look like child's play. The ultrasound was still sitting on my coffee table the next morning, a grainy reminder of Sophia's bombshell. I couldn't shake the doubt gnawing at me. Her story about the pregnancy didn't line up, and that flirty text from Lucas kept flashing in my mind. I was Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami, not some fool to be played again. I headed to the coffee shop in Coconut Grove, my jaw set, ready to get answers. Sophia was already there when I arrived, looking nothing like the polished princess I'd known. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, just jeans and a sweater, almost like she was trying to play the relatable card. She pushed a coffee toward me, black with 2 sugars, just how I liked it. Thanks for coming, Ethan, she said, her voice soft, almost pleading. I didn't touch the coffee. You said you had something to show me. Let's see it. She reached into her bag and pulled out a leather-bound journal, sliding it across the table. I've been keeping this for the last year. It's the real me. Read it. She opened to a marked page, her handwriting neat and deliberate. June 12th. Ethan took me to watch his kids play football today. The way he cheers them on, so patient, so proud. It's like he's their dad. I keep imagining our own kid, maybe a boy with his smile learning to kick a ball. I've never wanted that before, but with Ethan, it feels right. I flipped through more pages, entries about our dates, my work at the community center, dreams of a house by the beach. It painted a picture of someone deeply in love, not the woman who'd called me a phase at that party. This is me, Ethan, she said, her voice cracking. Not what you heard. I was stupid trying to impress those shallow people. I'm sorry. I closed the journal, studying her face. Something felt off. The pages were too clean, the ink too fresh, like it had been written in a rush. Why'd you say those things at the party if this is how you feel? I asked. She looked down, tears welling. I'm a coward. I've spent my life trying to fit in with my dad's world. Those people, their approval, it's all I've known. But this journal, it's the truth. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. And the ultrasound, I pressed. It's real, Ethan. We're having a baby. The dates might be off, but doctors make mistakes. Her eyes darted away, and I knew she was hiding something. That night, I called Lily. She showed me a journal full of lovey-dovey stuff about us, says it's her real feelings. Lily laughed, sharp and bitter. A journal? Seriously? Ethan, I've been around her for 2 years, never once saw her with a diary. Not in her bag, not at her place. Nothing. I frowned. You think she faked it? Oh, please, Lily said. I could whip up a journal like that in a weekend. Buy a fancy notebook, scribble some sappy nonsense, maybe smudge a page with mascara for drama. She's panicking because you ghosted her. Bet she's lying about the baby, too. I told her about the ultrasound, the New York trip. Check her socials from that week, Lily said. Bet you'll find something. I dug through Sophia's old Instagram stories, archived but not deleted. Sure enough, there she was in New York, posting cozy bar photos with Lucas, their hands way too close for business. The next day, I texted Sophia to meet again, same coffee shop. She showed up, hopeful, but I didn't waste time. This journal, I said, tossing it on the table, is fake. The ink's fresh, the pages are pristine. And those New York photos with Lucas? They don't scream, just friends. Her face went pale. Ethan, I cut her off. I want a paternity test, independent lab, no games. She started to cry, shaking her head. You don't trust me. Trust you, I snapped. You called me a detour, bragged about cheating, and now you're waving a fake journal in my face. Paternity test or we're done here. Her tears stopped cold, and for a split second, I saw panic. Real panic. Okay, she whispered, but you're making a mistake. As she left, I knew I'd just lit the fuse on something bigger, something that'd blow her carefully crafted lies wide. The next day, I texted Sophia to meet again. Same coffee shop. She showed up, hopeful, but I didn't waste time. This journal, I said, tossing it on the table, is fake. The ink's fresh. The pages are pristine. And those New York photos with Lucas? They don't scream, just friends. Her face went pale. Ethan, I cut her off. I want a paternity test. Independent lab, no games. She started to cry, shaking her head. You don't trust me. Trust you, I snapped. You called me a detour, bragged about cheating, and now you're waving a fake journal in my face. Paternity test or we're done here. Her tears stopped cold, and for a split second, I saw panic. Real panic. Okay, she whispered, but you're making a mistake. As she left, I knew I'd just lit the fuse on something bigger, something that'd blow her carefully crafted lies wide open. I walked away from that coffee shop in Coconut Grove, my mind racing. Sophia's fake journal and shaky story about the pregnancy had me convinced she was playing games, but demanding a paternity test felt like the only way to shut it down for good. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami, not some pawn in her drama. I thought I'd seen the last of her lies, but the next evening, as I was cleaning up after practice at the community center, there was a knock at my apartment door. Hard, insistent, like someone used to getting their way. I opened it to find Richard, Sophia's father, standing there in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my rent for a year. Behind him were 2 other guys, also in suits, looking like they'd stepped out of a law firm ad. Ethan, Richard said, his voice cold as a winter morning in a place Miami never sees. We need to talk. He didn't wait for an invitation, just strode into my little Havana apartment like he owned it, his lawyer buddies trailing behind. Nice place, he said, eyeing my worn couch and secondhand coffee table with a smirk that screamed condescension. Cozy. I didn't offer them seats or water. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Skip the small talk, Richard. What do you want?" He adjusted his tie, a nervous tick I'd noticed at the charity event where I met Sophia. "I understand my daughter is pregnant with your child," he said, his tone clipped. "We're here to discuss how you'll handle this situation." I raised an eyebrow. "Situation? That's what you call your grandkid?" One of the lawyers, a guy with a weaselly face and thinning hair, stepped forward. "Mr. Parker is concerned about his daughter's welfare and that of the child. Given your limited financial means, we've drafted preliminary paperwork, child support, visitation, the usual." The other lawyer chimed in, sliding a folder across my table. "It's in everyone's best interest to formalize this now." I almost laughed. Richard leaned in, his voice dropping. "If you don't cooperate, Ethan, things could get difficult. Legal battles are costly. Your coaching salary won't cover much, and we wouldn't want this to jeopardize your job. Background checks for those working with kids are thorough these days." The threat was clear as day. I took a slow sip of water from a glass I'd grabbed for myself, not offering them a drop. "Here's my deal," I said, calm but firm. "Paternity test, independent lab, no test, no conversation." Richard's face twitched, his composure slipping. "That's an insult to my daughter. No more insulting than you three showing up here, throwing threats like I'm some deadbeat," I shot back. 8 weeks ago, Sophia was in New York for a fashion show. I have the plane ticket receipt in my email. I drove her to the airport, and I've got evidence suggesting that baby might be Lucas Rivera's, not mine. The room went quiet, like the air had been sucked out. Right then, my door swung open, and Lily walked in, tossing her bag on the counter. "Oh, look, a lawyer convention," she said, grinning. "Did I miss the free pens?" The weasel-faced lawyer bristled. "This is a private matter." "Nah," Lily said, flopping onto my couch. "I'm Ethan's counsel here, not a lawyer, just someone who hates seeing good people screwed over by rich jerks. No offense." Richard looked like he might choke. I stepped in. "Here's the plan. Sophia takes a paternity test. Independent lab, separate appointments. If the kid's mine, we'll talk. Until then, you've got nothing." Richard's jaw clenched. "And if we refuse?" I leaned forward, my voice steady. "I've got a recording of Sophia at Ryan's party, trashing me, my job, my background, pretty discriminatory stuff. Wonder how your firm's partners would feel about that going public. Bad look for a fashion empire, right?" It was a bluff. I didn't have the recording, but they didn't know that. The lawyers whispered to Richard, who finally nodded. "Fine, paternity test, independent lab, tomorrow." As they filed out, Richard turned back. "If you're the father, Ethan, you'll do right by my daughter." I didn't respond. After they left, Lily let out a whistle. "Man, you were ice cold. I almost felt bad for them." I sank onto the couch, exhausted but wired. "Just playing the long game, Lily." The truth was coming, and I was ready to face whatever it brought. The air in my little Havana apartment still felt heavy after Richard and his lawyer goons left, their threats hanging like humidity you can't shake. I'd called their bluff, demanded a paternity test, and now it was a waiting game. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami, and I was done being Sophia's pawn. I thought I'd seen the worst of her lies, but the next morning, the whole mess exploded in a way I never saw coming. I was at the community center in Tur, running drills with my kids, when my phone started buzzing non-stop. Texts from Lily, a call from my buddy Ryan, even a DM from a random guy I coached years ago. "Yo, Ethan, you see this?" Lily's text read, with a link to an Instagram post. I clicked it, and my jaw hit the floor. Lucas Rivera, the hotshot designer Sophia had been cozying up to, had gone nuclear on social media. His post was a full-on rant. "I'm done with the lies. Sophia Parker tried to pin her pregnancy on me, saying it was mine, then turned around and told her ex it was his. She played us both, using her kid as a bargaining chip. I'm out." He tagged her dad's fashion company and half of Miami's elite, with screenshots of texts where Sophia begged him to play along for her dad's sake. The comments were a wildfire, hundreds of people piling on, calling her out, speculating about her motives. By noon, the post had gone viral, picked up by local gossip blogs and even a Miami Herald online blurb. The hashtag #SophiaScandal was trending. I called Lily, still reeling. "This is insane," I said. "Lucas just blew up her whole game." Lily cackled. "Told you she was a snake. But wait, it gets better." My cousin works at her dad's firm, says they lost a huge deal with a New York retailer this morning because of the PR nightmare. Richard's livid. Apparently, Sophia's stunt had backfired so hard it was tanking her dad's business. Word spread fast in Miami's tight-knit fashion scene. By evening, Sophia's name was poison. Her so-called friends were ghosting her, and her Instagram went dark. No more curated posts of her sipping rosé on yachts. Rumor was she'd been kicked out of her fancy Brickell condo and was crashing with a distant cousin in Overtown, a far cry from her penthouse life. I didn't feel glee, just a strange mix of vindication and emptiness. Sophia had played a dangerous game, and now her world was crumbling. But the real kicker? The paternity test was still pending, and Lucas's post didn't prove anything about the baby's father. It just confirmed Sophia's lies ran deeper than I'd thought. I met Ryan for a beer that night at a dive bar in Wynwood. "Man, she was all over Lucas at my party after you left," he said, shaking his head. "Kept bragging about his connections, his penthouse. Everyone saw it." I nodded, sipping my drink. "Guess she thought she could juggle us both." Ryan leaned in. "You dodged a bullet, Ethan. But what's next? You think the kid's his?" I shrugged. "Paternity test will tell. Either way, I'm done with her drama." As I drove home, the Miami skyline glittering in the distance, I knew this wasn't over. Sophia's lies had unraveled, but the truth about that ultrasound was about to hit like a hurricane. The fallout from Lucas's viral Instagram post was still rippling through Miami's gossip circles, and Sophia's name was mud. Her lies had blown up in her face, tanking her dad's fashion empire and leaving her scrambling in the wreckage. I'm Ethan, the 32-year-old football coach from Little Havana who'd been dragged through her mess, and I was just waiting for the paternity test to put the final nail in this drama. I got the email 2 days later, sitting on my worn-out couch, the Miami heat pressing against my apartment windows. The results were stark. 0% chance I was the father. I stared at the screen, feeling not victory, but a hollow kind of relief. 2 years of my life poured into someone who saw me as a stepping stone, a story to tell her rich friends. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. I didn't have to wait long for the next chapter. Richard, Sophia's father, called that afternoon, asking to meet. No lawyers this time, just him. We sat on a bench at a quiet park in Coconut Grove, the kind of place where joggers and palm trees outnumber problems. He looked worn, the lines on his face deeper, his usual swagger gone. "Ethan," he started, his voice low. Sophia confirmed it. "The father's Lucas Rivera. They connected after Ryan's party." I snorted, unable to help it. "She called him a big name at the party. Guess she oversold that one too." Richard rubbed his temples, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "I owe you an apology. I came to your home, threatened you based on her lies." That was wrong. Yeah, it was, I said, not letting him off easy. But you believed her. She's your kid. He nodded, staring at the ground. She's paying for it now. I've cut her off. Financially. Completely. The firm's taking a hit from this scandal, and I can't keep cleaning up her messes. I learned later from Lily's cousin that Sophia had been evicted from her Brickell condo, her credit cards frozen. She was working shifts at a diner in Overtown, living in a cramped studio with her cousin. Lucas didn't fare much better. His big designer ego took a beating after the scandal. No fashion house in Miami would touch him. Word was he'd moved to Orlando, selling knockoff handbags at a strip mall, barely scraping by to send child support. I didn't gloat. There was no joy in watching Sophia crash, or Lucas either. It was just justice, I guess. The kind that happens when lies catch up to you. Richard sighed, breaking the silence. I misjudged you, Ethan. The way you've handled this. Calm, dignified, it's more than I expected. He paused, meeting my eyes. I'm starting to see what Sophia saw in you, even if she threw it away. I stood ready to leave. Take care of her, Richard. And the kid, they didn't ask for this. He nodded, and I walked away, the weight of the past 2 years lifting just a little. Back at the community center, I threw myself into my kids, my real purpose. Jamal was showing up to practice again, smiling more, and that felt like a win worth more than any revenge. But Sophia's drama wasn't done with me yet. The real test was coming, and it'd push me to face her one last time, in front of the people who mattered most. The paternity test had drawn a line in the sand, proving I wasn't the father, and exposing Sophia's lies for what they were. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami's Little Havana, and I was ready to move on, focusing on my kids at the community center and leaving Sophia's drama in the rear view. Her world had imploded, evicted, cut off by her dad, working a diner job in Overtown. And I thought that was the end of it. But a week later, as I was wrapping up a Saturday practice with my team, the gym door swung open, and there she was, Sophia, standing in the doorway, a baby strapped to her chest in a worn carrier, looking nothing like the polished princess I'd once loved. Her hair was messy, her eyes tired, but she carried herself with a desperate kind of determination. My kids stopped dribbling, the gym going quiet as they watched her march toward me. Ethan, I need to talk to you, she said, her voice loud enough to echo off the bleachers. The kids, Jamal, Marcus, and the others, exchanged looks, sensing the tension. I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. Not here, Sophia. This is my space. She didn't back down, stepping closer, her baby fussing softly. Please, just hear me out. I'm sorry for everything. The party, the lies, the journal. I was wrong. I'm struggling, Ethan. I lost everything. And I'm trying to make it right for my kid. Her voice cracked, and for a second I saw the old Sophia, the one who'd made me believe in a future together. But then I remembered her words at that party, calling me a detour, laughing at my life. Before I could respond, Jamal, my 15-year-old star player, piped up from the court. Yo, coach. This the lady who trashed you, the one who lied about the baby? The other kid snickered, and Marcus, who'd been with me since he was 12, added, She don't belong here, coach. You're too good for her. I held up a hand to quiet them, but their loyalty hit me hard. Sophia's face flushed, her eyes darting to the kids. You told them? She whispered, mortified. They're my family, I said, my voice steady. They know who I am, and they know what you did. She took a shaky breath, clutching the baby tighter. I'm not that person anymore, Ethan. I'm trying to be better. For him. She nodded at the baby, tears streaming down her face. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone broken, not by me, but by her own choices. "Sophia," I said, calm but firm, "I forgive you, but I don't forget. You made your bed and I'm not your fallback plan." The gym was silent, the kids watching like hawks. Sophia stood there, defeated, then turned and left without another word, the door slamming behind her. As the kids went back to their drills, Jamal slapped my shoulder. "You're a boss, coach. She didn't stand a chance." I managed a small smile, but inside, I felt a strange mix of closure and pity. Sophia was out of my life for good, but that moment in the gym, with my kids having my back, reminded me where I truly belonged. The real fight, though, was what came next, building something bigger than her betrayal ever could be. The gym door slammed behind Sophia, her footsteps fading as my kids went back to their drills, their laughter and shouts filling the air with life. That moment, standing there with my team, Jamal, Marcus, and the others, felt like the final page of a chapter I'd been desperate to close. I'm Ethan, a 32-year-old football coach from Miami's Little Havana, and I'd just walked away from a 2-year lie. Sophia's betrayal, her fake journal, her attempt to pin a baby on me, it all led to this. I wasn't broken. I was free. And I was ready to build something real, something that mattered. After the paternity test cleared my name and Sophia's world collapsed, I took the money I'd saved for that ring, every penny of my heart and hustle, and put it towards something bigger. With Lily's help, I leased a small lot near the community center and opened the Carter Youth Football Academy. It wasn't fancy, just a patch of turf and a dream, but it was ours. Then, out of the blue, Marcus, my old player who'd made it to the NFL, called. "Coach, I heard what you're doing. I'm in." He didn't just send a check. He put his name on the academy, bringing in equipment donations, media buzz, and enough funding to expand. Suddenly, we had 30 kids signed up, then 50 parents from all over Miami calling to get in. We even hired Jamal's older brother as an assistant coach, keeping it all in the family. One night, driving home in my new Jeep Wrangler, midnight blue, paid in full, no financing, I spotted Sophia at the diner in Overtown balancing plates, her baby in a carrier by the counter. Our eyes met through the window. She looked exhausted, stripped of her old glamour. I gave her a nod, not out of spite, just acknowledgement, and kept walking. Lily, loading groceries into my Jeep later, grinned. "Cold as ice, Ethan. You didn't even blink." I shook my head. "Not cold, just done." I didn't need her to fail to feel whole. My life was full. My kids, my academy, my people. Then Richard, Sophia's dad, reached out. We met at a no-frills coffee shop in Wynwood, the kind of place he'd never step into normally. "I've been watching your academy," he said, looking uncomfortable in his designer suit. "It's impressive." He slid a check across the table, a number that made my eyes widen. "No strings." "I misjudged you, Ethan. I'm reevaluating." "A lot." I took it, not for me, but for the kids. Word spread fast. Suddenly, parents from Miami's richest neighborhoods were signing up their kids, whispering about that coach who stood up to Richard Parker. Lily laughed one day, hanging our new academy sign. "You're a legend, Ethan. Suburban moms are obsessed with you." I shrugged. "Just trying to run a good program." Here's the thing. Sometimes the worst betrayals push you to your best self. Sophia showed me who I don't want to be, someone who fakes their way through life, chasing approval. My kids, Lily, even Richard now, they see me for who I am. And for the first time, I see myself clearly too. The lesson? Don't let anyone else define your worth. Build something real, something honest, and it'll outlast any lie. If you're out there feeling like someone's made you small, know this: your value isn't in their words, it's in what you do next. So, go do it.